Hello friends, welcome into the Cowboys Report. We have a new background for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments section. We're going to focus on the news today. There are quite a few notable things coming out of Minicamp, which is about over now for the Dallas Cowboys. First up, some not great news. Noah Brown underwent a knee scope. That was during the final week of OTAs for the Cowboys. It is a minor procedure, so there's nothing to really panic about there. He should be back for training camp in that mid to late-ish July period. Of course, it is noteworthy for Brown because A, he's battled several injuries throughout his NFL and Cowboys career. There's always something going on. Remember, he missed a good portion of the beginning of last season before coming back off of IR and playing at least a notable role, if not small role, for the Dallas Cowboys. But the problem right now for Brown is he's not guaranteed a roster spot. I think three guys in reality, as I've said many times before, have secured their spot. Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Randall Cobb. That leaves three-ish, somewhere in that range, spots for some combination of Tavon Austin, Cedric Wilson, Noah Brown, Allen Hurns, and everyone's favorite undrafted free agent, John V. Johnson. So for Brown, the key thing for him, I think, is continuing to A, get back and be healthy, and also do many of the things he did last year and in his NFL career for the Cowboys. He's not a burner. He's not a dynamic wide receiver like Tavon Austin can be. But he does block very well, and he does a lot of the little things that really matter when you're hanging out in that 46 to 53 spot when you're filling out the back end of your roster. Now, Noah Brown is also battling with Allen Hurns for one of those roster spots, and we do have some good news on Allen Hurns. He is back and able to at least work a little bit here for the Cowboys, and he should be a full go during training camp for the Cowboys. That's a big deal. We all saw that gruesome, ugly ankle injury, and thankfully, Allen Hurns is working his way back from that. Right now, Hurns says he's at about 90%, and again, that is some fantastic news for Hurns and for the Cowboys. Now, Hurns is also aware of his contract situation. The Cowboys can save about $5 million if they were to release him, and Hurns is fully aware after catching just 20 passes last year and having his numbers, for the most part, on a downward plane since that really good breakout year for the Jags, which frankly, unfortunately, looks more and more like an outlier the more that Hurns continues on his NFL career. He is aware that he could be cut or asked to take a pay cut. But step number one for the Cowboys and for Hurns is just getting back on the field and getting healthy and seeing if he can contribute as a backup wide receiver and maybe even on special teams as a gunner. So let me ask you guys, those are the two receivers, or at least two of the receivers, battling for a roster spot. Let's say you can only keep one. Let me know which one you're picking. Type H for Hurns and B for Noah Brown. If everybody's healthy and you have Cooper and Gallup and Cobb healthy and good to go, I actually might lean more towards Brown. If I need someone to actually start, I lean with Hurns. But with the way this Cowboys roster is constructed, Noah Brown is cheaper, and he does more of the things that you ask out of your typical number 5 or number 6 receiver than you would out of Allen Hurns. Let's stick with offense here. Dak looks better, and this is good news for the Cowboys. Now, the coaches and players and media, they're all heaping praise upon Dak Prescott. Now, of course, that's not a huge surprise given who Dak is and the contract coming up. And, what else are they going to say, right? Dak looks like trash? Of course they're not going to say that. But it is noteworthy for me, and why I'm inclined to believe it a little bit more, is even those who have criticized Dak in the past from a media perspective have been pointing out, you know what, Dak? He looks good during practice and during minicamp and OTAs, and that's a big deal because Dak Prescott has not been a superstar practice player. He's like the exact opposite of Nathan Peterman. Nathan Peterman looks good in practice and falls apart during games in a laughable manner. Dak Prescott is iffy in practice and then plays pretty well during the games. But if Dak's practices have been better, isn't that an indication that Dak's actual on-field in-game reps are going to look better? Jason Witten says that Dak looks more accurate, has a better arm strength, and his anticipation, which I know many of you have been concerned about, also look better. John Kitten has heaped upon praise for Dak Prescott. So I'm not all aboard Dak having his best year ever, quite yet. With that said, I am optimistic about Dak Prescott, and as we'll discuss more here in a little bit, this entire offense. So will Dak Prescott have his best year ever, mainly from a statistical standpoint there? Obviously, best year can mean a lot of different things, as producer Brett is making faces at me behind the camera with right now. I don't mean wins and losses. I mean on-the-field individual production. Type 1 for yes, type 0 for no. It is not set in stone because, again, folks, it is June. I'm not trying to overreact, but I do think that this offense is heading in the right direction. I think Prescott, as of right now, I lean more towards yes, he will. Speaking of the offense, how about Kellen Moore? And we've mentioned this one a little bit before, and it's only been reaffirmed throughout OTAs and through minicamp, that Kellen Moore is the Cowboys offensive coordinator. This is not a drastic overhaul to this offense. This is not suddenly going to become a totally different new offense with all new formations, all new verbiage, all new everything. There will be still similar plays and a very common amount of those plays, but the presentation, and this I think is a good thing, is going to look different this year. Amari Cooper with a very similar quote to ones we've seen from Dak Prescott. It's small variations, like for example, running the same plays, but then disguising them. Different formations, different shifts and motions. I'll take you back to when Kellen Moore first got hired. What I wanted to see from this Cowboys offense, number one, was more pre-snap motion. I think I can declare that checked off. I think we're going to see a lot more pre-snap motion. I think we're going to see more play action. I still want all of the play action, of course. And then I want more crossing routes. And so far, the reports are more spreading out of the defense and more usage of Dak's legs in the red zone. So I think from that perspective, we are very much heading in the correct direction for the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to what expecting from the offense. Now, here's the question. Are you drinking the Cowboys Kool-Aid? That's the key question. Now, again, it is June, and I will continue to make notes about how I don't believe in drinking Kool-Aid and getting overly excited by minicamp and by OTAs. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid quite yet, but I am going to pour it out. I'm going to pour it and let it sit for a little bit, and we'll see how it goes. Because I think this offense has the ability to take a big step forward. So I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid quite yet, but I'll keep it here. I'll keep it cool, and we'll check back in during training camp. Because I will be honest, it is getting a little bit tough for me to not just want to guzzle this down. So let me know in the comment section if you're drinking Kool-Aid, yes or no. Let's move now to Zeke Elliott. This will kind of put a damper on everybody's expectations right now. The NFL did reach out to Vegas police about investigating, getting information about Zeke's non-arrest at that concert and that music festival in Las Vegas. Remember, Zeke, of course, was handcuffed after he, I'll say pushed. He did kind of push him a little bit, but come on, it really wasn't all that bad in the grand scheme of things. Despite that, I am not overreacting to the NFL going after information. And I think someone had tweeted at me the other day about how, well, if the NFL hasn't made a decision, that means there's nothing there yet. No, that the NFL got information only confirms, which they've really already confirmed, that they are investigating Zeke for this. This does not mean that because they reached out for information and there's been no suspension yet, that there isn't going to, there isn't the potential of one. Now remember, some around the NFL think Goodell could try to teach Zeke a lesson again. And the one thing I think we've all learned now from the NFL punishment process, it is a complete and utter wild card. We don't know what it's going to do. Now, maybe there's nothing. I think that's the most likely outcome and the appropriate outcome here. I think the NFL has a lot more to worry about with Tyreek Hill right now than Zeke Elliott, especially comparing the two things there. But for the Cowboys, with the way the roster's set up, probably want Zeke out there. Now, yes, Tony Pollard definitely has some impact ability. Olawale is a decent enough fullback, and we'll see who the third back is there. But as Stephen Jones has said, Zeke is the straw that stirs the offense as a drink. And I think that's important for the Cowboys. That is the quote. Don't give me that look, Brett. It is the quote. Maybe I shuffled the order around, but it is the quote. But for Zeke, the Cowboys need him out there. Now, you can get by for a game or two, but if there's a significant suspension, with the way the roster's set up, better go sign JJ, let's put it that way. I'll ask this again. We haven't asked it in a while, but I think it's a good time to bring it back up. How worried are you about Zeke's last off-field incident? Let me know in the comment section. Grade on a scale of 1 to 10. As I expected, the last time we asked it, which was right after the report that the NFL would investigate it, the numbers went up across the board. I'm still at that 2-3-ish range. I don't think there's anything to be freaking out about, but this should definitely be at the back of Cowboys fans' minds because it's the NFL, it's Roger Goodell, it's Zeke Elliott. Didn't we learn our lesson last time, in theory? All right, folks, do you guys like the Cowboys report? Well, make sure you're subscribed. The link right there is below. We already passed the 25K mark. Then we got 30K because we're big ballers here, and we expect to win $50K for the Cowboys. So make sure you're subscribed, youtube.com/Dallas Cowboys Report. Hit that big button if you're watching right now on YouTube. We know a lot of you watch the show and actually aren't subscribed, so I'm not quite sure what you're doing there, so let's change that right now and subscribe to the Cowboys Report. All right, more notes here. These are some injury updates. I think this might be a people freak out about, but let's not freak out about this at all. Again, it is June. So Tank and Byron Jones are expected to begin the year on the PUP list, at least in terms of training camp. And that really shouldn't be a huge surprise. Remember, both Lawrence and Jones originally had their return windows pegged in time for a week 1 at minimum, maybe in the preseason. Now, Jones did say he wanted to be back for training camp. I think the Cowboys are going to pump the brakes on Byron and not allow him to rush himself back or go at a too early pace there. Again, Jones coming back from that hip surgery. And it does make sense to start these players on the PUP list. That's the physically unable to perform list, because you put them on there at that moment, it gives you flexibility just in case there's a sudden relapse and they end up taking a month to recover. It doesn't automatically force you to put them on IR, because if you don't put someone on the PUP list at camp, they have to go right to IR. There is no other available option. Now for the Cowboys, they are banged up right now at cornerback overall. Byron, of course, is out. Cheeto missed minicamp. That has left a lot of reps for players like Anthony Brown, Donovan Alumba, Jordan Lewis, and Michael Jackson, which, frankly, that's probably not the worst thing in the world. I mean, don't you want to get Jackson and Alumba reps and get Lewis more reps as well? Byron and Cheeto, frankly, don't need a ton at this point in the season. The same is true at defensive end here, where DeMarcus Lawrence, of course, had his offseason shoulder surgery, got that fixed, he's all fine now. And again, this is not a huge deal for either player. And for the Cowboys, you just made DeMarcus Lawrence, rightfully so, a $100 million man. Why do you want to rush him back? Now with Tank out, you give more reps to Quinn to get him acclimated to the new defensive scheme. More reps for Dorrance Armstrong. More reps for Joe Jackson. And Dorrance Armstrong, by the way, has taken advantage so far in minicamp. So this is obviously not necessarily ideal for the Cowboys if those guys start the camp on the PUP list. But there certainly are a lot worse outcomes for the Cowboys than having them miss a couple of early weeks in camp and in the offseason. All right, folks, make sure you follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowny and send me any Cowboys questions you have as well. And, of course, make sure you're subscribed, and that link is coming up in just a second. Hey, Cowboys fans, thanks for watching the Cowboys Report. If you haven't already, click right here to subscribe to our channel for all the best Cowboys coverage on the internet. That's news, rumors, highlights, mailbags, film studies, and a whole lot more. And I'm making your lives a little bit easier as well with the next Cowboys Report video right here.